Today's video sponsor is GVG Mall, where using my SKG discount code leads to a 25% off across several products, making a Windows 10 serial key only $16. After the payment, you'll receive the key in your account and all you need to do is to introduce it in your Windows settings and bam! You have an activated system. Hello guys, I Gameplays, I'm Fabio Pisco and welcome to my channel. So as for today's video we have another GPU comparison, this time including the RTX 4070 Ti, making the video the RTX 3070 versus the RTX 4070 Ti versus the RX 7900 XT. The purpose of this video is to compare the RTX 3070 that you can now get for around $300 or 300 euros in the used market, or if you get one new refurbished you can get it for a little below $400, versus the RTX 4070 Ti versus the RX 7900 XT that can be both bought by around the same value, in between $50 difference, okay? So basically if you have a card older than these three, you can actually see if the RTX 3070 is worth your money, if it brings or delivers the FPS that you are looking for, or if you already have an RTX 3070 for example, and you want to do an upgrade and you want to know which card is the best in between the 4070 Ti and the 7900 XT, which card is the best for the money, okay? And that's why I'm making this video. And well, without any further delays, let's go!
He's going to catch us! Keep running!
Today's first game is Plague Tale Requiem. This game's really GPU intensive and loves bandwidth, and maybe that's why the RX 7900 XT takes the lead over the RTX 4070, even at 1080p. This of course at the expense of 100 watts power draw. At 1440p, the RX 7900 XT gets a bigger advantage over the RTX 4070 Ti, this time by 12%, with even the RTX 3070 achieving 70 average FPS, which is great, a great result actually considering how heavy the game is. At 4K, due to its higher raw power, the RX 7900 XT raises its advantage over the RTX 4070 Ti from 12 to 19%, being the only card achieving over 60 average FPS at this resolution. Assassin's Creed Valhalla has been a title where the AMD GPUs tend to smash the competition, but the new Nvidia cards have actually been doing a really great job, with even the little RTX 4070 Ti being able to deliver only 10 average FPS less than the RX 7900 XT at 1080p. At 1440p though, the raw power superiority of the RX 7900 XT starts to show itself, now delivering 20 average FPS over the RTX 4070 Ti. And at 4K, well, the RTX 3070 finally fails to achieve 60 average FPS, while the 7900 XT is now better than the RTX 4070 Ti in every performance aspect, being in this case 13% faster. Now with Cyberpunk 2077 we have some very nice results for the RTX 4070 Ti at 1080p. But if you look at the side-by-side comparison shown before, you can actually see how much more CPU overhead the RTX 4070 Ti has, making my Ryzen 7 7700X go from 69 watts on the RX 7900 XT to 81 watts of power draw on the RTX 4070 Ti. At 1440p, the RTX 3070 barely reaches the 75 average FPS mark, and the RTX 4070 Ti starts losing some ground to the RX 7900 XT that is now 15% faster. And at 4K, the RTX 4070 Ti keeps losing performance by enabling resizable bar and barely touches the 60 FPS mark, while the RX 7900 XT goes up to 73, being in this case 22% faster. Call of Duty games have been running greatly on recent AMD GPUs, but in here the difference is just brutal, with the RX 7900 XT delivering 70 average FPS over the RTX 4070 Ti being 39% faster, which is crazy considering these cards usually cost around the same. At 1440p, the RX 7900 XT is still chewing the RTX 4070 Ti like it was nothing, with the RTX 3070 still delivering a playable experience at around 85 FPS. And at 4K, the results strangely get closer than before. Usually the RX 7900 XT tends to be faster at higher resolutions due to its raw power, but in this game it is only 30% faster than the RTX 4070 Ti at 4K, while it was almost 40% faster at 1080p. Interesting. Forza Horizon 5 has been a game where AMD GPUs have been destroying the Nvidia ones across the board, and yet it seems that in some cases, at least with some combos, these cards are bugged and have very poor results in this game. For a matter of perspective, the RX 6800 non-XT usually has around the same FPS as the 4070 Ti in this title, meaning that working properly, the RX 7900 XT should be having at least around 200 average FPS. At 1440p the results are the same, and until AMD fixes this issue, well, the RTX 4070 Ti is actually the way to go for this title, being no different at 4K, where the RX 7900 XT gets closer to the RTX 4070 Ti, but that means exactly nothing, as it should be much faster once driver updates fix this issue.
Approach Cessna Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra is type Cessna 152.4 miles south.
Microsoft Flight Simulator is one of the most played titles by the flight simulator aficionados. At 1080p, both the RTX 4070 Ti and the RX 7900 XT are CPU bottlenecked, but due to the RDNA3 design and the lower CPU overhead on the AMD drivers, the RX 7900 XT can push around 12 average FPS more, which is nothing really noticeable, but well, more is more. At 1440p, the CPU bottleneck starts to disappear, and the RX 7900 XT delivers around 20 average FPS more, with both GPUs taking advantage of smart access memory and resizable bar, something that does not happen in all games. At 4K, the RTX 3070 fails to deliver over 45 average FPS even at high settings, with the RTX 4070 Ti delivering 75 and the RX 7900 XT 87. Making it 16% faster. Rainbow Six Extraction loves bandwidth, and that's why the RX 7900 XT delivers from 68 to 90 average FPS more than the RTX 4070 Ti, making it at least 22% faster. At 1440p the difference gets a bit shorter, now being around 43 average FPS, that translates to roughly 20%. It's interesting though how resizable bar made the RTX 4070 Ti lose performance at 1080p, while actually delivering some gains at 1440p. At 4K, like we saw in Modern Warfare 2, the RTX 4070 Ti actually gains some ground as the resolution goes up, now being only around 10% slower than the RX 7900 XT versus the 22% at 1080p. Once again, interesting, but actually odd results. Red Dead Redemption 2 couldn't be missing, as it is one of the most exceptional games ever made. At 1080p the RTX 4070 Ti performs better than the RX 7900 XT without smart access memory, but as soon as we activate it, the RTX 4070 Ti gets behind in averages, but most importantly in the minimums, where in the worst scenario the RX 7900 XT is 61% faster. At 1440p things are more or less the same, with the RX 7900 XT still delivering a much smoother gameplay experience than the RTX 4070 Ti due to having double the minimum FPS numbers. And at 4K, well, it is just more of the same, with the RX 7900 XT being the better card and the RTX 3070 actually delivering really close to 60 FPS. Now with Guardians of the Galaxy, and the reason you're seeing the RTX 3070 getting really close to the other cards is because we are hitting a massive CPU bottleneck. As soon as we go to 1440p, the results start changing a bit, with the RTX 4070 Ti taking the lead by 7 average FPS, but most importantly by 23 FPS in the 1% lows. Interesting to note that the RTX 3070 actually lost performance when using rebar in this game, while the RTX 4070 Ti gained a bit. In this game, not even 4K saves the RX 7900 XT that gets completely destroyed by the RTX 4070 Ti that performs a little better in terms of averages, hugely better in terms of 1% lows, and as all while consuming around 100 watts less, which is just amazing. And if Guardians of the Galaxy performed much better on the RTX 4070 Ti, in God of War it is actually the opposite, with the RX 7900 XT delivering almost 50 average FPS over the RTX 4070 Ti, making it 33% faster, which is almost a full performance tier in the GPU market. At 1440p the FPS difference gets smaller, but the RX 7900 XT is still 30% faster than the RTX 4070 Ti. But to be fair, even the RTX 3070 can deliver pretty good results in this game. And even at 1440p ultra-wide, it can deliver over 75 average FPS, with the RX 7900 XT still being 30% faster than the RTX 4070 Ti, with a difference that can be easily felt by people playing games like this one with higher refresh rate panels. As for the 10 games average, we can see that the RTX 4070 Ti still managed to achieve around 88% of the RX 7900 XT's performance across all resolutions, which makes it a bit behind of course, but considering it consumes around 100 watts less than the RX 7900 XT and usually less power than the RTX 3070, it actually makes it an exceptional card in terms of performance per watt, with both newer generation cards being awesome cards, but terribly priced, with the older generation of both brands still being the best options in terms of performance per dollar.
Lost hope. We're not from here either. Stellantis locked us up here a year ago.
Starting the ray tracing benchmarks with Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition, the RTX 4070 Ti is 18% faster at 1080p, 26% at 1440p and 34% at 4K, which is insane because once again, it consumes less power. One thing to note though is that even with the RTX 4070 Ti being much faster in terms of average FPS, it is actually slower than the RX 7900 XT in terms of 1% lows across all resolutions, but mostly at 1440p, where it is 26% slower in average, but 34% faster in the 1% lows, this the RX 7900 XT. Moving to Cyberpunk 2077, the RX 7900 XT just gets demolished, and while it delivers more FPS than the RTX 4070 Ti natively, as soon as we enable ray tracing, the RTX 4070 Ti is 36% faster, with the RX 7900 XT gaining some ground with FSR, but still being beaten by over 30%. I mean, even the RTX 3070 was able to achieve 91% of the 7900 XT's performance when using ray tracing plus upscaling. At 1440p the differences stay around 30% once again, give it or take it, with even the RTX 3070 managing to achieve almost 60 average FPS when using DLSS, and with the RTX 4070 Ti achieving over 90. Now we have Spider-Man Remastered, and I do like to test this game because the ray tracing is vastly CPU-sided as opposed to almost all games, so I usually test it to see the CPU overhead presented by the drivers on a specific GPU. As you can see at 1080p, the card delivering more FPS is the RX 7900 XT due to its architecture that is built to reduce CPU bottlenecks, and the AMD drivers that have less CPU overhead than the NVIDIA ones, with the RTX 4070 Ti even delivering less native FPS than the RTX 3070, possibly due to a bigger CPU overhead, I don't really know. At 1440p things start to change as the CPU bottleneck fades away, so the RTX 3070 gets less FPS both natively and with ray tracing than the RTX 4070 Ti. Finally, moving to 4K, the CPU bottleneck gets almost non-existent and the RTX 3070 gets demolished, delivering 64 average FPS natively and 42 when using ray tracing. The RTX 4070 Ti on the other hand still delivers a bit less FPS than the RX 7900 XT natively, but when using ray tracing it delivers slightly more 1% lows due to its higher ray tracing efficiency. Overall, in a title like this one where the CPU ray tracing reigns, both GPUs will deliver virtually the same results.
Brother!
Now with the upscaling technologies and God of War. At 1440p when using DLSS, the RTX 3070 gets a 13% performance uplift and the RTX 4070 Ti 15%. The RX 7900 XT also gets 15% performance uplift over native, but most importantly, it delivers a 23% increase in the 1% lows, something not seen on the NVIDIA cards. At 1440p ultra-wide, the RTX 3070 now manages a 23% performance uplift when using DLSS, with the RTX 4070 Ti now having a slightly lower value of 21%, with the RX 7900 XT having an even lower value of 19% performance uplift on the averages, but also getting a massive 34% increase in the 1% lows. On Spider-Man Remastered and 1440p, the RTX 3070 is the only card getting a slight performance boost, once again due to a CPU bottleneck, while actually getting lower 1% lows with both XeSS and FSR at 1440p, with even the RX 7900 XT getting lower results than native when using it, which is insane, so lower image quality and less FPS. As we go to 4K, things actually change, now with the RTX 3070 getting some decent performance uplifts, and the RTX 4070 Ti losing natively, but delivering higher performance than the RX 7900 XT when using DLSS and FSR. What you see here is basically what happens in CPU bottleneck scenarios, where even DLSS or FSR won't do much for your performance, as your CPU and RAM simply can't push more frames. All said and done, let's move to the conclusion. So guys, conclusion. As you saw, it kind of depends on what you want. In my opinion, and to give you a short conclusion, if you have a card like let's say for example the RX 6600 XT, the RX 6600, 6500 XT, 2060, 2060 Super, 5700 XT, a card around that performance, the 3070 will most likely be a good upgrade, okay? And if you're playing at 1080p and 1440p, it will be more than enough for most people because the 3070 is still a very good card. Now, if the 3070 performance isn't enough for you, as you've seen in the video, or if you already have a 3070 and you want to upgrade, you want to know the best card to upgrade to, well, in between the RTX 4070 Ti and the RX 7900 XT, it actually depends once again, because although the 7900 XT can be as good as 40% faster than the 4070 Ti, in this case Modern Warfare 2, what happens is that it also consumes more power. It consumes more power, it consumes around 100 watts more than the 4070 Ti, sometimes 120, so it depends, but it consumes more power, but it performs better in terms of rasterization. But as we go to ray tracing, things make a turnaround, and the RTX 4070 Ti is actually considerably faster than the 7900 XT, for example, if we take in consideration the Cyberpunk benchmark. And at least so far you have the DLSS 3 and frame generation on the 4070 Ti, thing that you do not have yet on the RX 7900 XT because FSR 3 is yet not launched. So as soon as AMD release the FSR 3, frame generation will be available for these cards and possibly even the older cards, the older AMD cards. But for now, 4070 Ti has the DLSS 3 and frame generation, while the RX 7900 XT does not. On the other hand, the RX 7000 series are yet to reach their maximum performance due to driver optimization. In the long run, the 7900 XT might be the card you want to buy because even if even for higher resolutions it will perform better than the 4070 Ti. Updates will make it even better, and you also have 20GB VRAM versus the 12GB VRAM on the 4070 Ti, meaning that in the future, if you are keeping your card for let's say 3 years or 4 years, the 12GB VRAM might be a handicap in the future, okay? But overall, just pick the card you want. If you want a bit lower power draw and if you want close to the same performance, go for the 4070 Ti. If you want better rasterization performance, a little less ray tracing performance, but more performance in the long run and more VRAM, more raw power, then the 7900 XT is the way to go. And well guys, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video because that really helps a lot. And as always, leave your comment in the comment section and let me know what you think about the results and what do you think about the cards that you should get. What card should you get? What card would you get if it was up to you? The 7900 XT or the 4070 Ti? Or even the 3070? Would the 3070 suffice for you or not really? Leave the comments in the comment section. Once again, thank you for watching the video and see you in the next one.